All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to tear apart one of the biggest ideas in personal finance, this whole concept we've been sold about retirement. We're calling it the Exit Strategy Delusion, and it might just change the way you think about your own goals.
For so many of us, this is it, right? This is the dream. A number. Maybe your number is 1 million, maybe it's 5, maybe it's even 10. It doesn't really matter. It's that magic figure on a spreadsheet that screams, you've made it. It's supposed to be the finish line you've been sprinting towards your entire career.
But here's the question we have to ask. What if hitting that number isn't the freedom you think it is? What if, for the most ambitious, successful people out there, it's actually a trap? A really beautiful gilded cage, sure, but a cage all the same. That's the rabbit hole we're going down today. So let's start with the dream we're all familiar with. We'll call it the retirement finish line. You know the one. It's this race, this game, and it's all about one thing, chasing the number.
And the rulebook for this entire game is built on this one simple, mechanical idea, the 4% rule. The thinking goes, once you've saved up enough, you can just pull out 4% every year and, poof, you're set for life. It's sold to us as the Holy Grail, the mathematical key that unlocks the rest of your life.
And man, the promise is powerful, isn't it? You grind for years, you make sacrifices, you climb the ladder, and finally, you hit the number. You get to hang up the suit, toss the briefcase, and start that amazing life you've been putting on hold forever. But is that really what happens?
And that brings us to this really interesting, kind of weird modern trend, the great unretirement. This is where we see the first big crack in the whole retirement myth. It's the paradox of what actually happens after you win the game.
I mean, think about it for a second. It's kind of nuts, right? Why would someone who has literally won the money game, someone who never has to work another day in their life if they don't want to, willingly jump back into the chaos? It just doesn't seem to add up, but it's happening all the time.
And it shows up in a few classic ways. They'll launch a passion project that, let's be honest, looks a lot like a full-time job. Or they'll start consulting, going right back to their old industry. Sometimes they just become obsessed with managing their money, turning their portfolio into a new career. And look at that last line, because it's the most important one. They aren't running out of money, they're running out of reason.
This quote from an early retiree who went back to work just hits the nail on the head. He said, "I didn't want to retire from something. I wanted to retire to something." But when he finally got there, he realized he had no idea what that something was. The entire plan was about escaping, with no thought given to what came next.
This is what takes us inside that gilded cage we talked about. This is where we get into the psychology of it all, because this is about that moment when your net worth and your self-worth just smash into each other.
See, for high achievers, the real conflict was never really about the money. It was about this. On one side of the ledger, you've got net worth, your portfolio balance, the 4% rule, all that accumulation. But on the other side, you have self-worth, your sense of purpose, of mastery, of who you are, your identity. For your whole career, those two things were tied together. Retirement just cuts the cord.
And a huge part of why this happens is a psychological quirk called the hedonic treadmill. You know the feeling. You get a promotion, a big win, and you feel amazing. For a little while. Then it just becomes the new normal. Well, hitting your retirement number is like the biggest version of that. The incredible thrill wears off, and it just becomes your new and maybe even boring baseline.
And this all leads to what's called the wealth trap, which has 3 pretty serious consequences. First, you get hit with this profound identity loss. Your title, your routine, your status, it's all gone. Second, a totally new kind of anxiety pops up. The game is no longer about building wealth, it's about the fear of losing it. And finally, that hedonic rebound kicks in hard. The permanent vacation gets old fast, and you find yourself no happier than you were before.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, this is where we need a whole new equation for life, one that goes way beyond the simple math of the 4% rule.
So let's pinpoint exactly where that old way of thinking goes wrong. The fundamental flaw in the 4% rule
Isn't actually the math. I mean, the spreadsheets are fine, the financial models are solid. That's not the problem at all.
It's the assumption, the deep-seated, unspoken belief that if you just get the money part right, a successful life will magically follow. And that, right there, is the delusion.
So here's the new formula. Forget the financial spreadsheets for a minute. True, lasting life satisfaction is a function of these 4 things. Autonomy, having control over your life. Mastery, getting better at things that matter. Purpose, feeling like you're contributing to something bigger. And relationships, having deep connections with others. This is the equation we should be solving for.
So how do you actually put this into practice? Well, this last part is all about designing your real exit. And it requires a huge shift in thinking, from a life of accumulation to a life of contribution.
This one line says it all. The real goal isn't to stop working. It's to get to a point where you simply stop needing a paycheck. That's true freedom. It's the freedom to choose your work based on what excites you, what fulfills you, not what pays the bills.
And here's the key. You have to start building this new life before you leave your old one. A great way to think about it is this 3-bucket test. First bucket, mastery. Find a creative pursuit, a complex skill you can work on just for the love of it. Second bucket, purpose. How can you contribute? Mentor someone, volunteer your skills. And the third bucket, relationships. Actively build your social circle outside of your work colleagues. Think of this as building a prototype for your new life.
And this is the big mental shift you have to make. Your real long-term assets aren't just your stocks and bonds. They're these activities, your pursuit of mastery, your contributions, your connections. That is the portfolio that's going to pay your dividends and fulfillment for the rest of your life.
This quote just perfectly wraps everything up. The grand prize that all your hard-earned money buys you isn't the ability to sit on a beach and do nothing. It's the ability to choose your work, to choose your challenges, your projects, your meaningful struggles, completely on your own terms.
And so that's the question I want to leave you with. If money was no object, if you didn't need a paycheck to survive, what problem would you love to solve? What meaningful struggle would you choose to take on? Because answering that, that's the real first step to designing an exit strategy that actually works.